Hello, we would like to talk about the ongoing political censorship and persecution going on in Lithuania as a result of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, Russia and the West. So we have such a situation in Lithuania when the whole government is hysterically promoting the position of the USA, the NATO against Russia and its strategic allies. So we are sort of on the front line, and if anyone in this country does not support the general line, which is mostly that Russia is to be blamed for all our problems, that we are supposed to prepare for war, and etc., then you are immediately labeled as a so-called Russian agent, as a Katsap, as a Vatnik, and all these other political epithets which are supposed to give you a stigma that no one should listen to you because you're crazy and you're pro-Russian, etc. But in reality, being actually patriots of our country of Lithuania, we believe that any kind of war between Russia and the West would be firstly mutually suicidal because of potential nuclear conflict. Secondly, it would totally destroy the Middle and Eastern European region. And thirdly, the only ones who could benefit from such a conflict would be the big business of the military industrial complex. So what we want to say is that the ordinary people of Russia or the ordinary people of Europe have absolutely no interest in having such a conflict, which is being incited through the mass media, which is of course controlled by big media corporations that perhaps have a vested economic interest in causing such a war. So in this context, in Lithuania, we see the slow but quite active development of an anti-war, anti-imperialist movement of different individuals, different groups who are speaking about the social, economic problems in our country, who are opposing the dictate coming in here from Washington, from Brussels, and saying simply that we should mind our own business, we should try to be an independent country and not get ourselves involved in such a murderous and criminal war that could arise between Russia and the West. So we support the neutrality of our country and non-intervention, secession from NATO and from the European Union. And well, when we have such a position, when we actually support the national sovereignty of our country, we, as I have mentioned, get labeled as agents of Russia and so on and so forth. Well, and recently the political regime here is coming toward more and more extreme methods to suppress any kind of dissent or alternative opinion. Last week we have seen how in the homes of about 9 different activists there have been house searches, computers, video cameras, writings and other items have been confiscated, and the police authorities motivate this that supposedly we are trying to find a source of financial support from Russia, because these people may be creating anti-constitutional groups to overthrow the established constitutional order in favor of Russia and Putin, or as they call him, Putler. But in reality, I can say that it is highly unlikely that any such financial or other links exist between these individuals and any kind of Russian institutions, and we are motivated essentially by patriotic and humanistic intentions to oppose such a war here, and we are simply made into scapegoats by the government, which wants to create this hysteria that, oh, everywhere Putin is attacking, there is the Russian agents under my bed, everyone who doesn't agree with me, everyone who doesn't love NATO and Obama, it is a Russian agent, it is the Russian imperialism, it is Putin, or whatever you want. It is this big Russian boogeyman, and we are essentially being made into this we are being made into a scapegoat for the government to create a fictitious enemy and to persecute us purely for expressing an opinion in a legal, civil way, without any kind of illegal actions, without any kind of incitement to violence. And then, as a result of this, we get accused of creating anti-constitutional groups, which is an absolutely absurd accusation. Sadly, the pro-American, pro-Western government of Lithuania, which likes to cry and shout about some kind of so-called democracy here, in reality contradicts its own principles by repressing anyone who doesn't agree with them, who doesn't want conflict with neighboring countries, who doesn't support the dictate of European Union, who doesn't want intervention in Ukraine, who doesn't support NATO. So it is just hysteria. It is a political witch hunt where they will label absolutely anyone who doesn't support the official line as someone who is working for Putin, and this of course is something terribly bad, though in reality no one is receiving any finances from Russia, no one is working for Russia. These activists are working purely of their own accord for their own country, and it is absurd how the so-called Democrats here are violating the basic human rights, the basic right to free speech, simply because they believe that this is a mouthpiece of Kremlin propaganda directed against the sovereignty of our state. So now, if you want to start an independent media outlet in this country and present an opinion that differs from the official line established by the government and its masters in the West, then immediately it means you are anti-constitutional, you are trying to overthrow the state, and therefore police has to come to your home, take away your stuff, and perhaps accuse you of trying to overthrow the state. So this is the true face of the Lithuanian so-called democracy, where only liberal, globalist supporters of the West, of NATO, of America, and all its crimes against humanity can speak loudly about what they consider to be some kind of human rights, rights for so-called gay movements, rights for invading other countries like Libya, Iraq, Syria, etc. And if you simply say that we don't support this, we don't need this, and we want to live in peace, then automatically you get labeled as a Russian agent and persecuted as such. So it is absolutely appalling, the double standards, the hypocrisy of this regime that throws this accusation that, oh, Russia is a terrorist authoritarian state, it has no democracy. But try to look at yourselves. This government should look at itself, what kind of so-called democracy it is, when it doesn't even allow people to criticize its foreign policy. It doesn't even allow people to have a different view on economics, on geopolitics, on what the government is doing. Then this is just becoming a dictatorship of a pro-American globalist regime. So why are we saying this to the world? We are saying this because we want people to know that the so-called democracy, as they call it in Lithuania, is becoming more and more an authoritarian, pro-American, pro-globalist regime, which is trying to suppress any kind of opposition, any kind of dissent, any kind of alternative opinions. And we ask all people in the world who do not support imperialist wars, who do not support NATO, who do not support the criminal regime in Ukraine, the junta of Kiev, to express solidarity with the people in Lithuania who are fighting by legal means for the sovereignty of their country and against our involvement in any kind of terroristic wars against Russia or interventions in Ukraine. So thank you for your attention.